what you need. You know I can. So hands up, who wants to rock?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Radulich broadcasting show, the Metal Hammer of Doom, and I am your host, the Mandated Reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified. And frankly, I'm freaking tired. What a week this has been. As people may know, I record the Casual Heroes WrestleCast with Gavin Napier, Chris Evans, and Jed Lucid. What people don't know is that we do that usually Wednesday night. If we get started on time, it's normally about 10 o'clock, 10:30. We've been going later and later, which means I've been going to bed at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm up at 5. And sometimes I can get away with sleeping in a little bit and going into work a little bit late because, you know, as a responsible adult, that's what you do, right? Stay up late doing podcasts that you don't get paid for, so that you can go in late to work that you do get paid for. You know how it is. But I was not able to do that this week. And someone's going to accuse me of having narcolepsy, as I was drifting off into La La Land at various points during the day. But I'm telling you, man, I had to stay at work extra. They found one of our inmates guilty of first-degree murder, and so I had to stay after to make sure that he wasn't suicidal. So I got home really late. Literally from the moment I walked in the door till about 10, 15 minutes before this podcast started, I was in bed, face down. I'm pretty sure I said 2 words to my daughter, a few words to my wife, and nothing to my son. That's how tired I am. I am exhaustipated. Mr. Mark Radulich. Robert Cooper will be joining me in just a moment, and tonight we will be reviewing the latest from legendary rockers Judas Priest. No, that is not the name of a guy. It's the name of a band, Judas Priest. The man you're thinking of is Rob Halford, and he's awesome. The latest album, Redeemer of Souls, 17th album from Judas Priest. I actually got to see them a couple of years ago. And if you ever have an opportunity to see some of these bands that were popular 20, 30, 40 years ago, you really should. You get out and do it just once. I mean, I've gotten to see some version of Black Sabbath on one of the Ozfest tours, gotten to see Judas Priest, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I've noticed about a lot of these old-time bands is they really know how to put on a show. I mean, it isn't just get up there and play music and then walk off again. Judas Priest, for example, there was a whole light show going on and stage show, and they brought out a motorcycle, and you really felt like you were a part of something pretty special. So if you have an opportunity to go to a concert, spend $1 and go ahead and do that. Judas Priest is definitely one of those bands you want to experience live at least once in your life. So, not a whole lot going on in the music news this week. I posted an article on my Facebook page, and it was about how the music industry is over the years has become its own worst enemy. And I'm always fascinated by this because I have been preaching for a while now that the end of physical media is coming, and it's coming quicker than I think people may realize. When you think about books and comic books and newspapers and magazines, that's all online, and people are more and more digesting that sort of thing on readers, phones, mobile devices, etc. Their laptop computers, whatever. music is the same thing, and I've talked about this on the show a million times. I don't remember the last time I actually bought a physical album. I know Mr. Cooper, who will be joining us soon. He still buys physical discs and whatnot. But I tend to, if it's not on Spotify, I'll go to YouTube, and it actually says that in the article that the music industry never saw YouTube coming, and it's one of the major ways. I'll see if I can find it in the article. It's one of the major ways that people find the music now. Here, about midway through, the article is called, it's from Forbes.com, called "How the Music Industry Created Its Own Worst Nightmare." And the part about YouTube goes like this. And then there was YouTube. When Google purchased YouTube in 2006 for $1.6 billion, most wondered how the company would ever see a return on the investment. Flash forward to 2014, and the service now brings in roughly 4 times that amount in ad revenue per year, with music leading the way as the main traffic driver. YouTube has now become the top way that users discover new music online, and the primary way that teens, the major label's primary customer target, consume music. It's MTV and Napster rolled into one, and once again, it's beyond the control of the music industry. When we produce this show, as a matter of fact, we typically, I don't know if people know this or not, but you can, let's say you want to hear Metallica, just to give an example, and you want to hear Master of Puppets. You can go on YouTube and you can find HD quality, you can find an upload of the entire album with links to the beginnings of songs. You can find individual songs on there. And then they have these great websites that allow you to rip the sound from a YouTube video and it brings it to your computer as an MP3. And that's, as a matter of fact, how we, as I said before, we produce this show, The Metal Hammer of Doom. We go on YouTube, we pull the audio from various songs, and we upload it to our soundboard. Theoretically, if you want to spend the time doing that, this is another way of getting free music. I've listened to a great, like the new, when we did the Body Count show, before the Jonas Exodus, the original Body Count album review, none of that was on Spotify. It was all on YouTube, though. It was on YouTube in several formats. There was the entire album uploaded all at once, and then there was each song broken down. And within minutes, you can have the entire thing on your computer as digital media. So I'm not surprised that the kids, as they say, have found YouTube as a way of getting free music. And isn't that always the driver? That was why people flocked to Napster. It's why people flocked to LimeWire and BearShare. And some people listening to this going, what the hell is he talking about? These are all file sharing services. I remember one of the fun things about all of them were mislabeled files. So every time there was a punk cover, it was always Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. No matter what it really was, it was always Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. But this continues. For a while, the industry once again ignored this newly growing digital trend, but when it discovered that fan-generated cover songs and lyric videos were producing big view totals and ad revenue, the industry made a concerted effort to get involved. First, it started Vevo, which is a YouTube portal for its artists' official music videos. Then labels began to actually post their own lyric videos, or even just videos with only a simple picture of the artist so the viewer could have YouTube access to the song. Soon the labels began to go after anyone using one of the artist's songs in a video without permission in an effort to monetize it. The real problem is that unlike so many other YouTube channels, Vevo is not a destination. No one says, I'm going to check out what's on Vevo today. They accidentally access it when looking for the latest Katy Perry video. While the industry has been able to pivot faster than in previous situations and actually take advantage of the technology at hand, it was still caught by surprise when droves of music consumers began to consume most of their music on YouTube once again for free, as I said before. So I just found that fascinating. There's a whole history of it here. There was a whole section here on how MTV changed the music industry. And I'm always on the lookout for articles like this because I find them fascinating. You have all these really, really smart people in the business industry out there running running record labels and working with bands, and they are always caught with their pants down when it comes to the future of music technology. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break here. When we come back, we'll go ahead and start the review of Judas Priest. Hopefully by then, Mr. Robert Cooper will be with us. In the meantime, I played this a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to go ahead and listen to a little bit of it again. This is the Frozen cover, Let It Go, by Betraying the Martyrs. All right, enough of that. Okay, not sure where the Coop Man is tonight. We were also supposed to have another guest, but duty calls as it does, so he will not be. Sean Garmer, another writer for 401mania.com, will not be able to join us tonight. So I'm going to do something that we don't normally get to do on this show. I'm going to give out the call-in number, and that is 323-657-0901. Again, that number is 323-657-0901. Feel free to call in and weigh in on Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls. We're going to get started with that right now because I don't want to be here all night. All right, so as I said, this is the 17th album, studio album from Judas Priest. Came out in Europe July 11th, and in the UK July 14th, and in the US July 8th. And we're just now getting around to We're just now getting around to covering it. We've been busy. I've been giving it let me give it an overall impression so far of the album. It's a good rock album. I don't have a whole lot to say about it in total. The critical reception was the album received very positive reviews from Get Your Rock Out writer Michael Dodd, who particularly singled out the song Battle Cry for praise, declaring it an instant classic in the Priest canon. Here's what I'll tell you. It sounds like a great rock album. I don't know how else to describe it than that. It's a little bit different than what we usually review on this podcast. So, for me, if it wasn't, it's kind of like what I said about the Expendables last night. And he said, I just got distracted. If I didn't know that this was the Expendables and this was just a regular action movie, I probably wouldn't have gone to see it. Same thing with this album. If this wasn't Judas Priest, if it was just Ham Sandwich, I don't think I would have bothered. But it is Judas Priest, and Rob Halford's awesome. So let's get into this. And if Cooper ever calls in, he'll just have to catch up. So this is the first song off the album. Particularly good one, as a matter of fact. This is Dragonaut. All right, played a little bit more of that than I had initially intended, but that was because I was dealing with other matters. All right, so Robert Cooper and I have always talked about when we review these albums the importance of a good first track, something that really comes storming out of the gate, and this one does that. The tempo of the album shifts all over the place, which is not a bad thing. One of the things I often complain about with many albums is feeling like I'm hearing the same song over and over and over again. And the nice thing about Redeemer of Souls is that there's a lot of variety in the kinds of songs that they've recorded here. So Dragonaut's one of the faster ones. Definitely the kind of song that I think sounds a lot better live. Probably the one that they're playing right at the beginning of their live set as they go on tour. I think they're on tour now with Steel Panther, which would be awesome. All right, moving right along here, because I don't really have much more to say than that. If you've got something to say about the album or about a particular track, or you just want to call in, you can call in here at 323-657-0901. Again, that number is 323-657-0901. We're going to move on to the title track. This is track 2, Redeemer of Souls. And we're moving steadily along here on the Judas Priest Redeemer of Souls album review. Good song. I enjoyed that one. Got a nice gallop to it. One of the things they captured on this album with songs such as that one is nice, without going so that Dragon Force totally over the top power metal sound. They still captured, I think, the spirit of power metal. Especially with that last track. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed a lot of this album, I have to say. Like I said, I'm a pretty big Priest fan. The Priest song that I think everyone knows and is probably one of the most popular ones is Breaking the Law. Certainly a lot of the older songs from Halford's original run before he took a break from the band to go do other stuff. That's what people are familiar with. And I will say that there's nothing like that on this album. One of the words I would use to describe this album, especially compared to the older Priest stuff, would be mature. It's a very mature sound. This is definitely a band that isn't, storming out of the gate all angry and pissed off. They're making music. They're making fun music. They're making music that sounds good. They're making very powerful sounding music, but it isn't that kind of rebel in your face, breaking the law type sound. All right, moving on to track 3 here. It's a longer one. This runs about 6 minutes. We're going to play about a little less than half of that. This is, speaking of power metal, The Halls of Valhalla. of Valhalla, everybody. And we're building up here. Songs are getting a little heavier and a little heavier with each track. I want to take a time out here to bring on our special guest, emergency special guest. I broke glass and pulled in case of emergency because we don't know where Cooper is tonight. And since I didn't want to spend the entire podcast talking to myself, I reached out and touched somebody and found Radulich and broadcasting superfan and honorary producer in his own right and co-host of the From the Cheap Seat Sports Show, Mr. Jesse Starcher. How you doing, sir?
I am breaking the law. Oh, I threw it back there a little bit. I like I told you. Thank you very much for bringing me on. I'm glad to come to your aid here. I'm sure Cooper's probably going to join us here later. I cannot wait to learn. As I've said many times, listening to this program, you learn a lot. And Judas Priest, granted, I know some of their more famous songs. This new album, it's going to be fun to listen to it because I haven't had a chance to listen to much of it as I told you. But you always learn something, and Judas Priest is definitely one of those. They're an iconic band. And I'm not saying that because I know a whole lot of them. I just know because you hear about them all the time. And a lot of rock historians have attributed a lot to Judas Priest. So I'm excited to listen to this, to listen to bits of this album, and I'll tell you right now, that sounded pretty good.
Yeah, I was saying before you called in, they sort of captured the spirit without going overboard of power metal. And if you listen to a lot of power metal, a lot of it is very Norse influenced, and certainly Halls of Valhalla falls right into that theme. I thought it was great. I thought it was a good song. As I said, they kind of stormed right out of the gate here with a lot of with some fairly heavy tracks right up front, which is good. It'll start to slow down as we progress towards the end of the album. But, right at the beginning here, you've got 3 heavy songs, but songs that are distinctly different. So you're not tremendously familiar with Judas Priest. Any particular reason why? Is it just wasn't your bag? I know for me, I came into Judas Priest a lot later in getting into metal. I came into metal without any kind of, in other words, let me try to organize my thoughts here as I shift gears. I went from listening to rap to listening to what was present-day metal. It wasn't like the friends I had in that community whose parents listened to like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and they sort of grew up with their parents' rock and roll and then graduated into present-day music. So they had this really long base. I literally went from Ice-T, NWA, Public Enemy, Pantera. So I didn't have an appreciation. This is where I'm going with this. I didn't really have an appreciation for a lot of the early metal acts until much later. What about you? Did you have an appreciation for Priest at the onset, or did you kind of just come to it later upon Rob Halford's resurgence with the band?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm very what you just laid out there is very similar to kind of what happened with me. I'm other than the few very famous songs that Judas Priest has, that's about my limit to the knowledge of what they've put out there and some of the albums. I can't even say I've ever listened to a whole Judas Priest album. And the good thing is that you brought me on here because I'm going to represent that target audience of people that have never heard and they're here to learn. But I can tell you, what you were talking about there is very similar to what I used to do. I was into rap. I can remember as in the early 90s up to the mid 90s, I was pretty heavy into a lot of rap, and some of it, Will Smith, he's the DJ, I'm the rapper, stuff like that. And then somebody hooked me up with Megadeth's Countdown to Extinction. And all of a sudden my Columbia house tape selection started getting a little bit more varied into the metal things, but I never had the opportunity to grab any Judas Priest. And how many albums have these guys come out with? I mean, I know they've been around for quite a while. What album is this?
This one makes 17, and you got to remember, there was a point at which Rob Halford had left the band, and he was replaced by Ripper Owen. Which did you know that there's a movie that was based on the real life events of Judas Priest, in the sense that there was a Judas Priest cover band that was out there doing gigs, and when Priest went looking for a new singer, they came upon this cover band and asked the singer of the cover band to join Judas Priest, and that was Ripper Owens. And then and then for a period of time, I don't remember what the name of I think it was like Rockstar, might have been the name of the movie. It's got Jennifer Aniston in it.
Oh, and Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. And then for a period of time, when Halford came back, he was performing with Ripper Owens, and then Ripper Owens went into obscurity somewhere. I don't know where Ripper Owens is today, but Rob Halford has been back in the band. To answer your first question, we are 17 albums deep.
Wow.
17, yeah.
These guys started in the 70s, or are we talking prior to that? The 70s?
I'm going to go ahead and say 70s. If I'm wrong, I will let you know.
Okay. Somebody else might let us know, too. All right. That's all right. Yeah. I mean, 17 albums, if they're churning them out every 2 years, that'd be pretty dang good. But I figure it probably goes back a little bit further than that. Now, we got Halls of Valhalla. That was the last song we listened to. Are a lot of their songs, titled similar to that? I mean, when I think of Halls of Valhalla, I'm thinking of Viking metal or something similar to that.
Right.
These guys don't put me in the mind of that. At least they're, some of the songs that I've heard, but I haven't listened to a whole lot of recent albums. Is this a trend that they're doing, or is this something that they've always done?
The more and more I think about it, and I've listened to the album a few times. I listened to it on the way to work today. And one of the things that kept jumping out at me now that I think about it is this has that battle metal feel to it. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to go into track 4 here. But much like track 3, it kind of carries that same thing. This one is called Sword of Damocles. first thing, they started in 1969.
Wow.
I know, right? They had a brief 4-year hiatus where they didn't exist, but yeah, they've been putting out records pretty steadily. They've had some various band member changes. And as I said, for a little while there, Halford wasn't in the band. He was kind of doing his own solo stuff. Yeah, for those that don't know, Rob Halford has a solo album. It's called Halford, and it's kind of like a goth industrial thing. And he also had a band called Fight, which has a couple of albums out there. And Fight has a song called Into the Pit, which I saw them live with Anthrax. And the only thing I remember about Fight was the mosh pit during Into the Pit.
Man, I bet that probably went insane. That was that song specifically geared toward the pit in any way, shape, or form?
It was definitely geared towards us guys who like to mosh it up. Sure. All
right, then. All right. Well, let me tell you, that last track that you just played, that was awesome. If anything else on this album beats that last track, I enjoyed that last track. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, so did I. Again, they really went and captured the spirit of the Viking power metal type of sound, which is different from the kind of Judas Priest that I'm used to. It's an interesting take for them. I'm just doing some reading about the recording of this. It seems like they're experimenting with different sounds and trying to make it their own, which I think is probably, if I just sum up this album in one sentence, I guess that would be it. It was, they're experimenting with a different sound than we're used to with Judas Priest, but still making it their own. Like, I wouldn't go ahead and say like they're copying any kind of other bands out there, whereas they're influenced by a certain subgenre of metal and putting a little Priest spin on it.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I've started recognizing. Talk about listening to this show. I've started recognizing more that I'm starting to enjoy Viking metal a lot more, and starting to recognize the difference. And this particular track, it's heavy. It's got a great. It's got. I'm sitting here banging my head to it as I was listening to it, and it really took me by surprise because this is the first time I've listened to Priest. For some reason, I'm thinking that I may have tried a couple albums or a couple other songs off of previous albums, and I wasn't too impressed, and that's just my personal taste. But I'll tell you right now, that right there I enjoyed that one.
All right. Let's see if we can continue to make Jesse happy and keep Mark interested. This is track 5. This is March of the Damned. I was just reading 411 Mania's review of this album from back in July, and Jeremy Thomas, the author of the review, and I think he's the editor of that particular zone, one of the things he says is what's pretty inescapable is that Rob Halford's voice, his unmistakably high voice, is pretty much gone. And I'm not in a place where I can really argue with that. He doesn't say that it's bad, but it's different. I mean, he's sort of taking what's left of his voice and using it to its best capacity. But this isn't the Rob Halford of old who could hit those like Bruce Dickinson pitches.
That the first thing I noticed was the vocals. Just compared to, I looked. First thing I'm thinking of, for some strange reason, and it just could be me. I'm thinking Ozzy Osbourne all of a sudden when I heard that, and I could be totally off. And I know I'm listening to the track through Blog Talk Radio, but his vocals were definitely it just took me back a little bit compared to the last song we just heard. Was there a change, or am I just imagining this?
When you say change, a change in what?
From what we just heard from Sword of Damocles, is this the way he's been singing the whole time? Maybe I'm totally off, dude. Okay,
no.
All right.
There's songs where he's a little bit higher, but I should have uploaded Into the Pit from Fight because and maybe I will as we're starting to play these if I have some time in between songs. I'll see if I can find it. Then you really see what I mean, because even back in the 90s, he was hitting pitches that, birds were going, birds and dogs. What the fuck, man? And he's not doing that on this album, not in any way, shape, or form. Let's go ahead and move on to track 6 here, and I'll see if I can, while I let this play a little bit, we'll see if I can find that Into the Pit for you. Okay. So what'd you think of that one?
That sounded like the Priest that I'm used to. I don't know. That totally. I could tell that was Halford singing for sure. And that was a song that reminded me of some of the stuff that I've heard from them in days gone by. That was my take on it. It's an all right song. I mean, it wasn't anything spectacular, but I mean, that's definitely Judas Priest when you hear that to me.
Yeah, he's keeping to the same pitch vocally. Just sticking on the subject for one moment. He's keeping to that same pitch for most of the songs. He might go a little bit higher here or there, but for the most part, he's staying in that one area. And I think that's where people like Jeremy Thomas are commenting on, is that he used to sound like this. He don't sound like that no more.
No, he does not. Dang. How old was that track?
Well, that's from when I was in high school, so that's the early '90s. But
I'll
look it up for you. I'll look it up for you for sure. When did Fight come out? First thing I just looked up like Fight Rob Halford, and all that came up were a bunch of videos. And, hang on.
Well, let me. Yeah, dang, that's some high pitched stuff. Now, again, I'm not very familiar with the Judas Priest catalog of songs. Was most of his stuff always that high pitched?
Yes.
Oh wow, I see. Learn something new. I mean, and unfortunately, as you know, obviously as singers get older and they try to, I guarantee you that guy's not playing that song, or at least if he is, it's a sad, and when they go on tour, it's a sad rendition of what that used to be. Because that, as singers get older, it's just hard for them to continue with awesome voices like that. I remember somebody here, we had some kind of town fair or something, and I think Kansas came to play. Oh, people were leaving because they just, it wasn't like what it used to be, man. Back in the 70s and the 80s, you can't go home again, unfortunately, sometimes. So, wow.
No, look, if people get older, it's hard to maintain that same level of the same level, be able to maintain those octaves. Fight came out in 1992, by the way.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna slow things down now. This is track 7. This is To Hell and Back. want to see that like in a movie somewhere. That sounds like that feels like a soundtrack song. We've been through it all. We've been to hell and back. I mean, that needs to be played like right at the end of a movie, right before the credits roll.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some groovy stuff. I thought it was going to be, at the beginning I was like, oh man, I don't think I'm going to like this song, but it picked up with that bass. I was all right with that. That was actually, that was a decent track to me anyway. What now do they again, Judas Priest, they usually mix a good bit of slow songs into their stuff, or are they mostly known for their fast-paced stuff?
I think they're known for their faster-paced stuff. When I saw them live, I think, and again, it's late and I'm got kind of mixing memories here, but from what I remember, you've got Another Thing Coming, not the world's fastest song, but it's one of the ones that everybody knows. I don't know if you remember it, but you've got another thing coming.
Oh yeah.
You got people love that song, and it's not exactly Battery from Metallica.
Yeah, so they're not known for the really slow. That wasn't too slow in my book. I mean, that was definitely slower than what we've heard so far. But I mean, that was heavy. I'll give it a stamp of heavy for sure. Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed about the song is that Rob Halford is still capable of hitting the high octaves. He just can't belt. I think that's what's missing from this album. To kind of go back to Thomas's review of it, is that he can't belt like he used to in the days of yore, or even going as far back as 1992's Fight, as we heard earlier. He doesn't have that capability anymore. And I'll tell you, real quick story. I may have told the story before on here because I know that I've actually talked to the girl afterwards and say, hey, I talked about you on my podcast. My ex-girlfriend, Corinne, she was telling me once that she got drunk in a bar and they were all singing and she started to belt out Eternal Flame by the Bangles, and she tore tore her throat or something, or her voice box. That was it. Yeah, she was belting out Eternal Flame and she tore her voice box.
Oh my gosh, man. That is bad news. She had to have been pretty well drunk. Well, yeah. Possibly. To start belting that out.
And you don't want to do that as a singer. I've actually seen a number of singers have blown out their vocal cords, and they've had to. Okay, so let's move away from my girlfriend at the time and talk about James Hetfield instead. James Hetfield, blew out his voice any number of times and had to learn how to keep the same power behind his vocal cords without blowing them out on stage. What's his face from Clutch, the singer, Neil Fallon, same thing. He's blown out his vocal cords a few times and has had to relearn how to sing appropriately while maintaining that same level of passion and power that people have come to expect from Metallica and Clutch, respectively.
Yeah. You talk about Neil and injuries. It brings up a sore spot. I don't know if you remember or not, but I think it was a couple of years ago when they were supposed to come down and probably about 15 miles from my house. I bought tickets, and he had to reschedule the tour because we're not talking about voice here. He messed his back up, and so he had to reschedule everything. There was I don't know how many dates. I can't remember. It was probably about a handful of dates that they had to redo, and they canceled one, and that was my freaking show. That was the only one they canceled. So the Clutch did not make it back down here because of his back injury. But sore spot, man, sore spot. Speaking of Neil Fallon and injuries, but yeah, it's incredibly hard to. I agree with you. I was in chorus. Were you ever in chorus or anything like that when you was in school?
I was in chorus and I was in jazz choir.
All right, jazz choir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I can. I just see you on. Do you do the jazz hands when you're in there?
No, but if we're going to tell silly stories, I remember we did, was it Blue Moon or something like that, where we decided that, like, the song would start and they would immediately, like, kneel a little bit, like he'd crouch, and it was funny, so we all started doing it, and I had to take things to another level. So not only would I crouch, but I would kind of, like, wave my body in a way that looked like I was drunk until somebody called me on it. Like, what are you? They're like, just crouch like everybody else. I'm trying to stand out.
You damn kids. Damn it. I can't get you guys to do anything. Yeah, I was in chorus. I can remember just getting winded from, trying to sing, Jingle Bells or something like that and going for like 45 minutes. These guys have a career, and they do this stuff year after year after year. So, all the respect for Halford. When he took his time off, from the band, was that just because of band differences, or history-wise? I understood that he left, but I can't remember why. Was there a particular reason why? Was it because of the singing, or was it because he just wanted to go his own way and do some other stuff?
I think he was just bored with Priest and wanted to go do other things. Like I said, Fight was very much a contemporary type of band, and Judas Priest wasn't writing contemporary music in the 90s, at least not that I recall. His goth project was obviously very different from his self-titled goth project was very different from Judas Priest, and so I think he just I also think he had just come out at the time as being gay, and so that was another thing. It was like, okay, I've been living this life for up to years now. I want to experience what it's like to just be me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he knew that people would accept him in Judas Priest as a homosexual. It turns out no one cared.
Yeah.
Or at least significant numbers of people did not care, because when I went to go see them play a couple of years ago, the place was packed. Mm-hmm. And at this point, everyone knows Halford's gay. And I'm telling you, it's not like people were in there like, beat the queer. No, people were break the law,
Yep,
that's it.
Exactly.
No one cared.
Exactly.
And it isn't
all
like,
about the music.
Right, and it isn't like he rode on stage, like a giant cock. He rode a motorcycle. Nothing changed.
That would have been interesting. Boy, his first day back, he's like, okay, guys, the motorcycle, no. Just get me the largest dildo you can find. I'm coming out with that between...
Yeah. The whole act's changing. Still going to wear a lot of leather, though. That fits with the image.
It's going
to. Speaking of which, this is track 8. This is Cold Blooded. Check it and see. You got a fever of 103.
I have no mind. I have no senses left. You see, I'm blind. I feel no faith. I hear no truth. The reasons I have all gone loose. Choice.
okay, that one gets a big meh from me. I mean, it's not a bad song by any stretch of the imagination. I just was fairly disinterested in it.
I will agree with those sentiments. What is this? Any idea what the song's about?
Not a clue.
All right. That's
Cooper's department.
I'm trying to listen to the lyrics. I'm like, okay, it sounds like a very melancholy song. I mean, it sounds like something you'd be listening to. You know, you're kind of upset with the way the day went, but it's called Cold Blooded, so I couldn't tell if maybe he was an axe murderer and he's just taking it slow. I have no freaking clue. So I'm right there with you, man. I'd skip track 8 if it was on the CD player. Actually, I probably wouldn't even burn track 8. How's that?
Yeah. Like I said, and Robert and I have talked about this in the past, where albums have this really funny thing where, like, they'll build to a point and then there'll be this really slow part in the middle. You know, so it's almost like it's paced like a movie. So, you know, you get to the middle section of the movie where things are moving a little bit slower and the action is slowed down. You have time to catch a breath, get to know your characters a little bit more, and it's not bad. It's just, you know, it's not as fun as the first part of the movie, you know, that sets everything up, and the last part of the movie where it all comes tumbling down. This is that middle section where you're just going, how much longer until we get to the final end sequence here? All right, things are going to pick up here with track 9. This is Metalizer. Good double bass there, good speed on that. Keeps to the same vocal tone. I don't know if it necessarily goes with the song, but that's a quibble. You know, we weren't sitting here sort of dissecting the album. I don't even know if I would have thought about that. But the structure of the song is, I think, more powerful. And the lyrics don't. I don't know. I don't feel like not the lyrics. I don't feel like the vocal tone necessarily matches up with the rest of the song. You know, he's still keeping it at a very low key, not to be confused with the wrestler. But you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of keeping it at that one low level. Meanwhile, the song is, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I don't want to fuck with the Metalizer, by the way. I don't know who this dude is, but I ain't fucking with the Metalizer. The guy sounds like a badass. I was just reading some of the, we got these titles on this album, and for some reason, it would just be awesome. It occurred to me it would be awesome for there to be like a comic book or a graphic novel with some short stories in it that are centered around some of these characters that these guys talk about. Okay, we got the Metalizer. All right, now think of this in the vein of Black Sabbath's Iron Man. All right, we all know the story about Iron Man. Imagine being able to see that in a graphic novel. And I have no idea. I came in late, but I don't know what the hell a Dragonaut is. But that'd be pretty badass. And then right after that.
Is it like a cosmonaut or an astronaut?
It's a Dragonaut. And then we got the Redeemer of Souls. I mean, I'm telling you, and believe it or not, track number 4. This is very. I'm gonna lay out some really geeky, stupid, dumbass, not need to know comic book trivia. Sword of Damocles was actually a crossover in the old early mid-90s Image books when Image just first started out with Wildcats, Brigade, the Max, and all stuff like that. Sword of Damocles was actually the name of a crossover, and that was immediately what I saw. I was like, hey, not to mention it's a badass song, but I was like, shit, that's some comic book material right there. But anyway, Metalizer, I ain't fucking with him.
All right, we're gonna start wrapping things up here. We've got 4 more tracks. I'm going to jump right into track 10 here. This is Crossfire. New World Order. I'm very fond of saying this or that song is my walkout music. Crossfire. That's some good walkout music, and not only because it reminded me of the Jimi Hendrix New World Order walkout song.
That's good stuff, man. That was a decent track. I like that. I just about started going, well, I stand up next to a mountain, but I refrained. But yeah, that was a decent song. I didn't mind that at all. He got some belting out there too. I heard him hit the high notes, and that's pretty good. I enjoyed the track. It was pretty cool.
Have you ever heard of a song called My Seven Bizzos?
What the hell is a bizzo?
Well, My Seven Bizzos. According to the Urban Dictionary, a bizzo is a girl, someone who is bizarre. In any case, it's a Two Live Crew song.
Oh.
And in that song, they sample Voodoo Child, which of course is why I made the NWO joke. And that guitar lick at the beginning of Crossfire sounds just like, the beginning guitar lick of Voodoo Child. But it's weird because every time I hear, like, the point that I'm trying to make is just funny how someone's brain works. I heard him do that, and the first thing I thought of was not Jimi Hendrix necessarily, though it's his lick, not the New World Order, not Hollywood Hogan. First thing I think of is this obscure fucking urban, sexy, nasty Two Live Crew song called "My Seven Bizzos."
That's some good stuff right there. No, I've never ever heard that. They sample that, you said, in that. I'm gonna have to YouTube that soon, because I know a few Two Live Crew, very very little, but that's interesting.
Yeah, maybe I can sneak some of My Seven Bizzos onto the show for us.
Awesome.
Just because, why the hell not?
Why the hell not? Absolutely.
All right, speaking of why the hell not, this is Secrets of the Dead.
Bizzos. 7 days, 7 ways, just too much.
Bizzles. On Monday, that's my mister. I like to be with her. I get all her money and then I diss her. On Tuesdays, that's Teresa. She's my homeroom teacher. She said after school, I would love to meet you. I said bet with no regret because a night with her was one I wouldn't forget. So then I told all my homies and they all called me phony and said I was kicking a bunch of that baloney. But they soon found out and now they all believe. Cause every Tuesday after school, me and her would leave my 7 bizzos. My 7 bizzos. 7 days, 7 ways, just 2 months.
My understanding is that podcasts are really popular with today's modern high school students and possibly younger, college, high school, possibly younger than that. The kids of today, that's where the podcast audience is currently at. And I want some kid listening to this podcast to go to school tomorrow and be like, dude, I heard the fucking weirdest album review podcast. Yeah, this guy, he was reviewing the new Judas Priest, and then, he's got ADD, just started playing some song called My 7 Bizzos. It's two Live Crew kids, okay? 2 Live Crew, as nasty as they want to be. Luke Skywalker, not the one from Star Wars. Look it up.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, this begs the question, have you ever used the word bizzo in a sentence?
Not since I've been married, no.
I've never heard that word in my entire life. It's unfortunate that I've not heard that song before. I can't believe it. That was some good stuff, though. Some good old 2 Live Crew. Look it up, folks. That's awesome.
Yep. Banned in the USA was one of the few.
Oh, yes. I remember some of that stuff.
See, everyone remembers me so horny, right? But, there were some other great songs on there, like My 7 Bizzos. You should do that. You should say that to your wife. You'd be like, just introduce her as your bizzo.
Oh yeah, that'll go over real well. Did you by chance hear that last night? We on the cheap seats we brought up. We were bringing up quarterback girlfriends, and we were comparing. Unfortunately, we were comparing the hotness of each. Now, I did not say that in any way, shape, or form that make any type of sexual innuendo towards any one of these pictures of these girls that I was looking at. But unfortunately, I had one live listener, and that would have been my wife. And I immediately got a picture sent to me of the couch. So that's how well that went over. I'm definitely not going to be introducing her as my bizzo. Then what's going to happen? She'll ask me what it means, and as a good husband, I'll have to tell her, and that's not going to go over at all.
All right. Well, it's a little late in the show. We're up to track 12 here. We're 2 tracks away from finishing the album review, but I'd like to bring on my bizzo. Better late than never. Late to the party, but don't call him Charlie. Mr. Robert Cooper. How do you do, sir?
Fuck. I texted Sean because Sean Garmer was going to be on here with us. And I'm like, hey, man, can you tell Mark I'll be like a half hour late? And he's like, oh, I got called in. I'm like, God damn it. And that half hour turned into nearly an hour and a half. God.
Yeah, I'm a little irritated. I mean, Jesse bailed your fucking ass out, man. But, when you're late for work.
I had no way to contact you.
When you're late for work, you're supposed to call your supervisor. What is this shit here?
I don't have your number.
I got your back, Coop. I got your back. I got your back, man.
That's good.
You're lucky you're my bizzo, Rob.
Yeah, see, I was actually annoyed. I'm like, God damn it, let's get this truck done. And it kept going and going. Like the Energizer Bunny or Ron Jeremy.
So wait, we've got 5 minutes left of the live cast, and we have 2 tracks to hear. But I want to know in full detail, why are you almost I set the show for 90 minutes. You're literally 85 minutes late. What is the problem here? What happened?
Well, let's see. We got to the wall in the truck because it didn't look like a big truck. I was like, okay, tonight's going to be easy. But we started started a half hour late. And then we got an extra person to help us today because the guy who usually like runs the show back there has to drive his son to college. So we had a new person started 30 minutes late. That new person left at 9, and then we worked those last 2 hours with 3 people, which included shit like, oh, the motherfuckers didn't put stuff on pallets. They put stuff behind the wall, which is only supposed to have appliances. There were appliances that had shit on them, and there was stuff that took 2 of us to get out. It was pretty fucking bad. But you know what? I'm sad because I listened to this album twice today while walking the campuses of Winston-Salem State University.
Well, here I want to jump in here real quick. What you heard of it, Coop? Okay, we're at track 12, I think. So can you give us your overall opinion on what you've heard for the first few tracks?
Well, the funny thing is we're almost at the point where if I summed it up, I'd be pretty much giving what I thought in the album.
Okay.
But a lot of the early tracks, like the one about Dragon in it. God, I don't fucking know. Yeah, like
Dragonaut.
Like that one was awesome. Sword of Damocles was really good. Redeemer of Souls was a nice track. Like, the first half of it was pretty good. Like, I enjoyed it. Like, it didn't blow my mind like I was listening to Painkiller or something, but it was good. But then we kind of had diminishing returns. Like, it just slowly started reaching a point where I was like, you know, there's some cool riffs, and there's some catchy stuff, and there's some good solos, and, you know, Halford sounds pretty good. But it's kind of like, I'm like, all right, you're kind of overdoing it, guys. I think maybe they didn't leave some songs on the cutting room floor or for the special edition or something, you know. But I mean, there's some gems up in that first part, which, you know, sometimes some of the best albums are like that.
That might have been my problem with this, because like I've listened to it, but all I've listened to is the deluxe version. And I think I'm just getting burnt out like midway through the song and just in tuning out. Where if I had heard just the regular version, I
mean, that's 13 songs.
I might have been more tuned into. I might have been more tuned into the album and less thinking about things like this.
Yeah, I mean what the hell? Anyway,
just give it a second.
7 bizzos. 7 days, 7 ways, just too much. 7 bizzos. On Monday, that's my mister. I like to be with her. I get all her money and then I diss her. On Tuesdays, there's Teresa. She's my homeroom teacher. She said after school, I would love to meet you. I said bet with no regret, because a night with her was one I wouldn't forget. So then I told all my homies and they all called me phony and said I was kicking a bunch of that baloney. But they soon found out and now they all believe, because every Tuesday after school, me and her would leave my 7 bizzos. My 7 bizzos. 7 days, 7 ways, just too much.
So I'm headbanging more during that song than I am during the Judas Priest album. I just want you to know that.
Ooh. I mean, Crossfire, that was a fucking, like, awesome song. That was kind of later towards the album. Like, there were some good songs here at the end, too. Like, God, I can't imagine listening to the deluxe edition twice. That's, 18 songs?
Yeah, it gets a little repetitive.
That's almost to the levels of, like, I don't know, like, Cephalic Carnage, or Napalm Death, or like early Napalm Death, or Blind Guardian when they do a concept album. Like,
yeah,
that's nuts. Like, I'm happy I didn't listen to that because I'll admit, like, yeah, I got a little, I almost got lulled into a little sense of boredom towards the middle. But when I was listening to it a second time while sitting on I-40 in traffic, because my mom gives really bad advice when it comes to how to get to your job on time. Great. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I told him I'll go one way. She's like, no, that'll get backed up. Go the other way. No,
Coop, I just want you to know, not only have I been playing random 2 Live Crew songs during this review for Jesse's benefit, but I've also been playing Rob Halford's solo thrash metal early 90s project, Fight.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say you were playing 2. Rob Halford's like industrial side project with John 5.
Yeah, that was just called Halford.
No, that wasn't.
Oh no, wait.
That wasn't Halford.
No, I'm sorry. I keep saying it's Halford. That was a third thing he did. He had a third solo project that was just called Halford. But you're right. The Goth project was something else. What was that called again?
2.
2, right? No,
it was like the letter 2. The number 2 DWO. Dude, Halford's awesome. Like Resurrection is a kick-ass album. No, 2 was shitty. I got that from my best friend Nick for $2 at a used bookstore just to be like, hey, Nick, I got you something. He's like, oh, cool, what is it? I'm like, 2. And, like, the look on his face is like, ew. I mean, I guess it's cool for collector purposes, but what the fuck?
All right, let's get a move on.
I give him John Cena word life for his birthday.
All right, let's get to the last 2 tracks here because some of us have been doing this since 10 o'clock and want to go to bed.
Hey, I've been up since 9 o'clock, working since fucking 6.
Whatever.
Ew.
Get to the podcast on time. This is Battle Cry. Robert, I want you to weigh in here. We were talking about Jeremy. I read part of Jeremy Thomas's review from this from July. We've spent the majority of the podcast playing my 7 Bizzos. No, we've spent the majority of the podcast talking about the change in his voice and him not being able to maintain the sort of falsetto that he was known for. He doesn't quite hit it in that song either, but I think he does a pretty good job of kicking it up a notch, more so than on the rest of the album.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that at that age, you lose some steps. especially with that vocal range, like him. Like the one person that didn't lose as many steps, I'd say, is Dio. Like he was pretty consistent, but he didn't really do falsettos necessarily. He just had like a really melodic and awesome voice, and I miss Dio. But yeah, Halford's voice is a little shot, and we kind of know it. But it's one of those. I think because we love him, and he's doing the best he can, and he's a legend. He's the metal god. Like we give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think anybody walks into this album thinking, "Here's British Steel," or "Here's Stained Class," or even "Here's Jugulator." I really like Jugulator, but I think people pretty much are just being like, I love Judas Priest. I would really love to hear some more Judas Priest, so it's just good to hear them. Like, I don't want to say that just the fact that they're like a nostalgia act automatically means like, oh yeah, great. It's not like a covers album to where if you don't fuck it up, you're okay. No, I mean, I think they're still trying as musicians and artists, and I mean they're doing a pretty good job for the most part. I mean, Halford's just working to do what he used to do with half the equipment, pretty much. I mean,
right.
That's the way I look at it, but. It's a bit of a detriment to the album, I'll admit, because, I would love to hear what would happen if he hit those, like, ball-grabbing falsettos. But, I mean, it's still pretty good for what it is, I'd say.
Yep. Jesse, you want to weigh in here, and then I'll play the last track?
I enjoyed that track. I thought it was decent. I don't really have a whole lot to add to it. I mean, it was a good one for what it was.
Does anyone want to hear my 7 Bizzos for a third time?
Well, that would be the second for me.
Oh, goodness.
All right. This is the beginning of the end, indeed. About all I can take of that and whoever is tapping in the background. Okay, Jesse, beginning of the end, go.
Just leave that one off of there. I'm sorry. I'm not. That was pretty. I don't know if that's the point of that song was to make people realize that was the end of the track at the end of the album, because. Yeah, I'm turning it off at about that point. That's not a good song in my eyes. I definitely I wasn't a fan of that one.
Huh. So you ready to hear something crazy?
Bring it.
I'll defend it because because on the second time I listened to it, I was like, I kind of not paying attention, and the song kind of got in my head. I'm like, it's not great. It's a catchy little ballad, I guess. Because when I first listened to it, I was kind of bored. I'm like, I love me some doom and some slow music and some sad music, but it's boring. But the second time, I was like, yeah, I could get on this train. I could dig it. Maybe it was because I was like, I don't have AC in my car, and it was 90, but
you're suffering from heat stroke.
You were.
I was like, lay me down on a bed of
You were
ice.
on some ill You are on some ill hallucinogens is what the issue here is.
Now, I was telling Mark Robert. I was telling Mark earlier I hadn't had a chance to listen to the album. I was coming on here pretty cold, so all I got to hear was what was just played. Does it pick up any, or does the song change in any way, or is it the same lullaby we just heard?
I think it picks up a little, and by a little I mean just like not much, like maybe a little. Maybe the key changes a little.
Okay.
But it is kind of just a lullaby, and if I'm not mistaken, there already was a ballad on this album. So, two is a little much, but I mean, I guess if you're suffering from heat exhaustion, this is the song for you.
Do you stick it in at the end like that, or would you have placed it there?
No, I like to stick it in the end if she'll let me.
Speaking of how,
I like to stick it in the end if my bizzo will let me. I use that in a sentence.
Oh, goodness.
Like, I mean, I guess sticking this at the end, I guess because you have to have a song called, like, something the end or something like that at the end of your album. I don't know.
I'll let that pass then.
I mean, I guess putting this on the end kind of makes the album go out with a but, I mean, I guess it's forgettable. I guess I could look at it like that. All I could think about was, I was like, I was listening to Black Sabbath 13 the other day. I was like, so is this the end of the beginning or the beginning of the end? Oh, and speaking of Black Sabbath, the beginning of the first song, Dragonaut, I was like, so is this supposed to pick up where the last Black Sabbath song left off? With the rain and the shine? No?
Yeah, I got nothing for you there, buddy. All right, so let's real quick, and I got a little surprise for everyone here for our next podcast, but let's real quick. Robert, your 50 words or less, your sum total of this entire album, of which you got to listen to 2 tracks here on the podcast. Go.
Well, I mean, at least I listened to the other, 11 off the podcast.
You're wasting words. Go. You're done.
He's
to
keeping
word.
count.
Oh, God. If he had count, Harris would have been done ages ago. Anyways, so this album, it was not great. It was good. It was good. It was better than Nostradamus. Nostradamus, I have never finished it because towards the first quarter of disc 2, I give up because I forgot what song's what. That's bad. When I don't remember what song is what, that's bad. So this song felt like a return to form. It felt like a Judas Priest album. Everything kind of felt Priesty, even though I still miss KK Downing. But Richie Faulkner did a pretty good job. I mean, overall, it's solid. I'd give it maybe about 7.5 out of 10. It was a little long. There's some songs that could have been cut. But overall, there's still some really catchy tunes. There's a great first half. There's a few solid stuff like Crossfire towards the end. But yeah, I mean, this is an album that I feel like fans of old Priest can pick up. Like, that guy is like, man, metal sucks now. None will be as good as Judas Priest. And he buys this album. I think he'll be satisfied. It's not like a barn burner. It's not like amazing, but it's good. It's good. It's solid Priest. It's really, it could have been a lot worse, I guess. We've seen some shitty reunion albums. So yeah, there you go.
Jesse, what you got to hear everything from like track 3 on, I think. What you think of it in total?
I would recommend it to anybody who's interested in listening to Priest for the first time. I think it's an album that, like I said, I've never listened to much Priest at all, other than what I hear on the classic rock stations. And I think there's some great songs on here that I enjoyed hearing, and I think that. Yeah, you'd benefit yourself, and if I can't speak as a Priest fan like you guys. You guys are aware of a lot more. What, like you said, we're 17 albums in. I've probably listened to maybe 3 or 4 songs in my entire life. So, but as far as this album goes, I'd give it, if I'm going to rate it on a 1 to 10, I'll give it a 6.5, 7.
Okay. Like I said, I thought it captured sort of the spirit of today's modern pop. Viking metal, power battle metal type of music, but it's still got that Judas Priest feel to it. Rob Halford doesn't necessarily sound his age, but he doesn't sound like the Rob Halford of yesteryear. That's not a bad thing. It's just something that needs to be acknowledged. Okay, before everyone goes into plugs and carries the show into 1 o'clock in the morning, let me just go ahead and say this. We have our next album picked out. It's going to be in 2 weeks. And here is a preview of what we plan to cover. I think Jason Teasley said he wanted on the show. I may have to wake my wife up and make her come on the show because she once lived in Japan. Folks, we are finally getting around to covering Lady Gaga's opening act. This is Baby Metal. Greatest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Wow.
Let me put it like, originally I was like, I had heard a few snippets of Baby Metal. I'm like, okay, I like J-pop, I like metal. The thing that does annoy me is that I know it's a gimmick because the metal is 2 riffs of chord-tastic breakdown, but it's so sweet and poppy and Asian that I don't mind it, but I have a feeling an entire album of it is going to make me very, very angry.
I have been listening to this nonstop at work. I played it for the gal that I work with, and I should play it for the prisoners. Yeah.
Cool and unusual.
I will say this, her reaction to it was just like, it's nice to hear metal with a very sweet sounding voice, that combination, it's like a food combination. You've got this bitter tasting food with this really sweet candy, and you put it together and your mouth is awash in so many flavors of metal. It's just fantastic. I love Baby Metal, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And so we're going... What was that?
Will you love an entire album of Baby Metal?
I have loved an entire album of Baby Metal. I told you, I've been listening to it nonstop on Spotify.
Oh, God. See, I guess I should remain optimistic because, it's not Throwdown, so...
Yeah.
It has a chance. Like, if these little girls are like, yo, like straight edge, I'm done. But
I'm telling you, man, Baby Metal is the soundtrack to hentai porn. It's great.
Okay, now I haven't had a chance to listen to any of the album. I know you have, Mark.
Do
they throw some English words in there, like most? Well, I shouldn't say most, but does that happen? I hear a lot of J-pop or some songs. I'm not an Asian. I'm trying to think of the word here. I don't know. I don't listen to too many Asian too much Asian music. So, but what I heard every once in a while, and maybe I'm just basing this off of what's his nuts, the guy with the North Korea or the South Korean guy. But anyway, there's English words. Is there English words in the album?
There has to be.
Almost all of it's in Japanese.
Okay.
However, occasionally, okay, so the song that I just played is called Doki Doki Morning. Well, I don't know what a Doki Doki is, but I do know that morning is an English word. There's another one called Give Me Chocolate. And again, it's like Japanese, give me chocolate. Japanese.
Okay, all right. So, now, see, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking there's going to be a bunch of Japanese, and then boom, you throw in some English. That's kind of what I'm used to hearing. But okay, all right.
Yeah, I guess I'm excited. This is different, and it's going to be interesting because we should wake up your wife, and then she could yell at us, and then I could like konnichiwa, bitches.
This has got home game written all over it. Home game. Well, I'm all over the home game on this one.
Well, my bizzo, Melissa Radulich, she lived in Japan for like 2 years, so she's familiar enough with J-pop. I mean, she's no expert or anything, but I think just getting her on here to tell some of the stories from when she was in Japan and, she was not familiar with the language, and so she was yelling something like there's a word in Japanese that sounds like cornflakes or some shit like that, and she was yelling it at the cab driver to get him to stop. International incidents such as those. All right, so that's in 2 weeks here on the Metal Hammer of Doom if Robert bothers to show up on time. We'll have.
I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
Give me your number after this, and I'll make sure next time I'll be like, "Yo, bitch, we're working over."
Okay. Well, thank God Jesse pulled your fat out of the fryer, and he was able to jump in here tonight. So Jesse is I'm officially making Jesse part of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. He gets on any show he wants, without question.
Boom.
Because he stepped into the breach tonight and he did an excellent job. Maybe next time I go on hiatus, I'm just instead of throwing it to Winfield, I'll just let you take over.
Oh boy,
that'll be a fun conversation. Like, Jesse, what have you been doing on the computer all night? Well, you see, there's this guy, right? You may know him. He told me I'm in charge of all of his podcasts. He's like, don't you have a real job? Get off the damn computer. Anyway, so all right, that's enough of that. Robert, do your plugs.
Oh boy. Okay, so the Radulich Broadcasting Network is your home for all podcasts so everyone to listen to. Oh yeah. So first, there is of course this podcast. It's awesome. We do cool things. There is the Cooperative Multiplayer Podcast, which is not on this channel. It is myself, Sean Garmer, and Daniel Anderson. We usually we did go live Tuesdays at noon, but I have school now, so I don't know what time we'll be going live. But it'll be on the Wrestling to the Max page on Spreaker.com. It's a pretty fun time. I don't think they had an episode this week because I told them I couldn't make it. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, there's from the Cheap Seats, yeah. I had to tell Jesse no last night. He's like, we're going live at 11, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to be away from my house for 12 hours, and I'm tired. So I had to say no. But they're live. I think it'll probably be every Wednesday coming up soon because football season's coming up. Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. Woo. So, yeah, Wednesday is around 10 or 11 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure Jesse will correct that if I'm wrong. And finally, the Sentai Hentai Frentai Happy Japanese Fun Time Podcast. It's on a little hiatus again because the new laptop that was given to me, the port for the to plug up the charger, charge the computer, has shifted, so I can't charge it. So until I get that fixed, no Japanese children's show podcasts. So yeah, hopefully in a few weeks I'll have that fixed and I can get back up and running because shit. I just came back after 3 months of disappearing, being like, oh, I'm like The Rock. I showed up after a long time of not being around, promised to never leave again, and in 2 months I show up via satellite. That's kind of what it turned out being. But yeah, hopefully we'll be good. We'll be back soon. I mean, I don't have like anything. Like, I'm in the technological stone age. I can't even record doing an ice bucket challenge. I've been challenged twice, and I'm like, I don't have anything I can record with. My phone.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, if I see you online doing a stupid ice bucket challenge instead of just donating the money like a normal person, I'm flying to North Carolina and punching you right in the mush.
I will do both and nominate you.
Oh.
and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to film myself going on PayPal and just donating $100 and calling every one of you people an asshole.
Flip them the bird.
I'm not turning $800. I don't have that much money. Maybe 10.
We were talking about this yesterday. My cousin Kimberly, who's not living with us, but she's been spending a lot of time here for a variety of reasons. We were like, we were just thinking of other idiotic challenges we could do, like how about the baseball bat to the head challenge? You can either donate $1,000 to the Salvation Army, or I hit you in the head with a fucking baseball bat.
There was already the fire challenge, which was just light yourself on fire and put yourself out.
Oh, yeah, we meant to talk about that on the Whiskey Rebellion, but we never got to it. God, the fire challenge. Those people are retarded.
Well, I thought it was a lot dumber than it was, which, I mean, it's pretty stupid, but I thought they were just doing this in the middle of the grass. All right. Be resourceful. Roll in the mud.
Jesse, you got anything for us?
Yeah, I only got a couple here. Just like Coop said, we got the cheap seats there, and it varies any time there. Right now, it's every other Wednesday. We're hoping to go weekly here the next show, so it'll be 2 weeks from now. So we're going to try and go weekly. Me and Teasley also did the Mortal Kombat Legacy Season 2 podcast there this past Saturday. I don't know if any of you guys have had a chance to listen to it. I know Coop had heard it, but Teasley kind of nodded off there at the end, and I was left to fend for myself, which was pretty interesting. So if you guys just want at least a little bit of entertainment, download the podcast and fast forward to like an hour and 45 minutes in, and you can hear me struggle and try to make some sense of just hanging out there by myself and wondering where the fuck did Teasley go.
You poor bastard.
I did that to Sean Garmer and Daniel. I fell asleep during the gaming podcast 2 weeks straight. They were like, "Hey, Robert, what do you think?" Robert?
Silence.
Yeah, there was once. There was actually, I started nodding off, and I hear, "No, you don't. You're not falling asleep on me." What?
Oh my gosh! And
I fell asleep during WrestleCast last night.
Did you seriously? Oh man!
Yep.
You guys and your late ass shows, and I tell you what,
you're telling me.
I commend you guys 100% for doing these shows as late as you do, and then working at the same time. That's incredibly tough. But I got one more thing.
Hang on. I actually started off the show talking about that. Like, I didn't even say how like deal with my kids tonight or my wife or anybody else for that matter. I walked in and just fell down on the bed until I had to get up for this podcast. That's because of this stupid staying up all night to do this fucking WrestleCast that doesn't get started on time.
Get your 8 hours of sleep in, guys. You need it. It's healthy.
I agree.
All right, one more thing. Me and Coop's co-host Jason Teasley of the Cheap Seats is turning another year older tomorrow. So his birthday is tomorrow. We're going to wish him a happy birthday here 2 minutes prior to it actually happening. So that's the only other thing I have. Happy birthday, Teasley. Enjoy your day. And that's it.
Okay. Let me just quick run through it. I won't do what I do on the rest of the guys. Just kind of go, I have a network, bitches, and peace. Sunday night is the 401 Ground & Pound radio show with Robert Winfrey and Jeff Harris. They talk MMA. Tuesday night is the Whiskey Rebellion. It starts at 9:30 with myself, Gavin Napier, Chris Evans, and anybody else that wants to call in, depending on the topic. It's news of the day. This past Tuesday, we talked Rush Limbaugh's response to Robin Williams' suicide. And we also talked about Ferguson, Missouri. And the conspiracy was the Yosemite Sam thing. That apparently
you guys did the number stations?
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, it's like the last 5 minutes of the show. He kind of talked about it, and we'll probably end up readdressing it again this Tuesday.
I was going to say I just started the cast, didn't get through it, so that was I suggested that. I feel important.
You should.
All right.
Wednesday was the Expendables review. Robert Winfrey and I are going to do one more podcast, so summing up all the summer blockbusters, and then I'm done. I am done until the fucking Hobbit comes out. Unless my wife drags me to a movie that she wants to go see, I'm not going to see anything until the Hobbit. Unless I take my kid to go see a kids movie. Yeah, well, I'll take her to go see Big Hero 6 when that comes out. But other than that, then obviously next Thursday night, the Long Road to Ruin comes back. We've missed a couple of shows just because life got in the way, but we're hoping to get this done. Batman the Animated Series Volume 2 and Volume 3, we're going to squeeze them all into one show, which means I have to start watching Volume 3 now. Friday nights is Everyone Loves a Bad Guy. I'm supposed to be on tomorrow night to discuss WWE heels of the 90s, so that'll be fun. And then that's it. So for the late Robert Cooper, for my hero, Jesse Starcher, this has been the Metal Hammer of Doom. We're going to go out to a different outro. Everyone be well, be safe, and behave.
Baby now.
Seven bizzos. 7 days, 7 ways, that's too much. 7 bizzos. On Monday, that's my mister. I like to be with her. I get all her money and then I diss her. On Tuesdays, that's Teresa. She's my homeroom teacher. She said after school, I would love to meet you. I said bet with no regret because a night with her was one I wouldn't forget. So then I told all my homies and they all called me phony and said I was kicking a bunch of that baloney. But they soon found out and now they all believe. Cause every Tuesday after school, me and her would leave my 7 bizzos.